right. I'm back in the house with the party. What's up?
How are you, Holly? How are all things?
I miss y'all. Oh my God, I miss you guys. I feel like I retired.
You saw me text me like, I don't want to bother you, but I just got a question. I was like, where's Holly?
I know. I feel like I took like a retirement from my my online personality.
Exactly.
So I'm really happy to be back.
They call it your alter ego. What do they call it?
Yeah. So I'm glad to have my radio cape back on and superheroing it out.
We missed you. The energy is just not the same without Holly, and I am so excited, Holly, that we were able to convince our show guest today, Pastor Ricardo Payne, to join us.
Yes, it's good to come back to a full house. Exactly. It's like a whole, it's not just a partial party, it's a full party.
No, it's a whole party for Holly. So what's going on, Holly? I know we're going to kick the show off, but you've been missing in action. I've been trying to hold it down.
Yes, and oh my God, I come back and my co-host Jennifer Jones is rocking the fly cut for summer.
Stevens.
All right,
Thank
go
you,
ahead.
Rachel. Thank you,
Yes, I love it.
Yes,
I need to get in and see somebody. All I could do was find this ponytail clip because it's been raining for 5 days. So sister just had to work it out. But I am so envious of the clip. Oh, it looks fabulous.
Thank
you.
Like, she's rocking I can tell you, and I'm proud for you to say that because I am 5 days out. My appointment is in a couple of days.
Yes.
I was like, oh, Rachel, I'm trying to hold it down. It's hard for a sister. I could do the shaggy dog and just keep it moving. Pastor Payne, you don't know that
so we had
I
to
misbehave with my hair.
Yes. Well, we had to have a moment for the beautification shout out and the Sister Tom catch up. But we definitely want to invite and welcome everyone to Truth 360 by BDC. We are so happy to have you. In case you missed it, I'm Holly Holiday.
And I am Jennifer Jones.
Absolutely. And although I've been missing in action, it is so wonderful to have such a supportive co-host and friend and partner in Jennifer, just so that you can take those moments to do what you have to do.
Absolutely.
And I just want to start by expressing how grateful I am to you and how thankful I am that I know and feel absolutely no remorse in being gone, because I know you are holding it down, and hold it down you did. And I also want to welcome Pastor Payne to the Truth 360 family officially in person.
Absolutely.
Got a chance to listen to what you were talking about 2 weeks ago, and then we replayed the show. So I know folks are really excited that we have brought you back, really, although for you week 2, for the world week 3.
Absolutely.
So we're glad to see that. And before we get into the hot topics and the news, which we've asked Pastor Payne to join in with us, I definitely want to remind people to text us, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, be a part of our conversation. You can also email us at Truth360 by BDC. And of course, the main way that you need to check is to text. Use those little magic boxes, folks, and text Truth360 to 40691, and boy, you'll just find out all kinds of amazing things. It's June.
It's summertime.
Officially summer.
Wow.
I haven't quite made it to the summer mood, but I'm going to get there really soon.
Absolutely.
But first, I just have to get over some of the foolishness happening in the news. What's on your mind today, Jennifer?
Well, Holly, before I can even talk about the news, I just want to give a big shout out to you for coming back to town. You do so much. We travel a lot. We've both been all over. You've been holding it down in Motown and at home in Missouri. And I just think, Holly, that we are so fortunate to have each other and to be able to focus and do a show like this. Pastor Payne, I'm happy to have someone with your depth and breath join us today. So you just chime in, participate in, but Holly.
Well, he told us last time he was here, and he reminded me today that he has 7 children. So I know he knows how to interrupt to get his point across, because he's used to having to overcome, I'm sure, a gaggle of voices to make sure that his point of view gets heard. So we know that's not going to be a problem at all. I have no fear of that.
So, Holly, I am just in the throes of the big announcement that happened this week. On last Saturday, former Governor Martin
Okay, I was
O'Malley
hoping you
of
was
the
about to
state
say
of
that.
Maryland threw his hat into the ring
Okay, yes.
to run for president.
Yes,
and
yes.
so there's been much buzz and much conversation.
And how do we feel about it, really?
Well, I had a wonderful tenure working with Governor O'Malley in the state of Maryland. He was extremely supportive of women's issues, of education, of issues for youth, and all of the things that are central and important to me. But I happen to be a Hillary Clinton fan. And so I'm in quite the quagmire with regard to his throwing his hat into the ring. More importantly to me has been the conversations. And so the conversations that I've been hearing are from my friends who are on the Republican side of the House. Are you guys really going to elect a woman? And from the Democratic side of the House, it's that, this is the year of the woman. This is the tenure of the woman. So let's talk about policy. Let's talk about future, and let's talk about vision. And so a lot of conversation around the Hillary Clinton, Martin O'Malley in the region has been because of Baltimore and because of all the things that are happening in the community around this issue of mass incarceration.
Yeah.
And so
which we knew was getting ready to be a high issue when Hillary
when
denounced
she first,
it,
exactly.
4 or 5 weeks ago
4 or 5
now.
weeks ago. And so because of this issue of mass incarceration and what's happening with young people, my take is the knowledge that a whole lot of approvals to build prisons happened in the state of Maryland on Governor O'Malley's watch. And so because I am a solution-oriented person with regard to community affairs, what can we do to help the young people and to help our citizenry so that we don't have to mass incarcerate? I am definitely listening to that conversation.
Well, let me just be very clear and very frank. I got absolutely no answers for you on the mass incarceration issue. I got nothing. However, I do have a few thoughts about the Martin O'Malley issue.
Absolutely. Go on with it.
Probably not a surprise. Well, here's the good news. The good news, I think, for you and other Marylanders who are torn, who really want to support him, no politician is perfect, and perfect is the enemy of the good anyway,
yes.
Especially in politics.
That's right.
But we definitely need to have people who are listening,
yes.
And who will react to a good idea if and when they hear one. And I think that both Martin O'Malley has demonstrated that as governor of Maryland,
yes.
As has Hillary Clinton in her various roles. But the good news for your Martin O'Malley fans is go ahead and support him. It's going to be okay.
Yes.
Go ahead and support him because here's the good news. He's not really running for president
He's
anyway.
Running for vice president.
He's running for vice president.
That's the next conversation I want.
All you need to do is to prep him up, support him enough to demonstrate that he's going to add value to the Hillary Clinton ticket. The girl has come out here and said she's going to raise $2 billion. And she is significantly on her way. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news to all Martin O'Malley fans, but go ahead, support him. It's important that you support him because at this point, I'm not even worried about who's going to be on the top of the ticket. My concern is who's going to be underneath the ticket.
Absolutely.
Because in most cases, although the Obama-Biden ticket is an exception, when you vote for these things, you're voting for who the party is going to support for years to come. So please support Martin O'Malley. I think he would make an excellent vice president. And that's actually what he's running for anyway. But what you have to do, unfortunately, in politics is demonstrate your worth. And so It's important for him to get out there. He did it in a way that was respectful to what Hillary was bringing to the table. But he needs to get out there and prove how he's going to be valuable to the ticket.
Absolutely.
I was in a... I generally do not think of myself as a reformist, except for when it comes to money and black people having a whole lot more of it.
Absolutely.
However, I may have been converted over the weekend. I attended a session with a guy, and he said the problem with politics is re-election. And I agree with his point
Yes.
of view on this. And so he said what we need is to have every politician run for 1 6-year term, because it really does take a year or two to get your stuff together and to figure out what's going on.
Yes.
Let them govern for 4 years and then be out, because then they're not constantly running for re-election. And unfortunately, in the game of politics, you need someone who can help get you elected, and
Absolutely.
especially when you're running for a leader of the free world. And let's just hope that Martin O'Malley and all that support him can do a good enough job so that he can find a place on that ticket. I think that
Absolutely.
would be, and then he's young enough, he'll have his chance to run for president, when she's done. But Hillary's the
a
one.
number of people were surprised at all of his announcement activities over the weekend, that there were just not droves of individuals and droves of women. And I'm just looking and saying, Martin, I'm just one woman. I'm speaking for Jennifer Jones, but all of my sistering across cultures, age groups, just pretty much are all pro-Hillary. And so
but we gotta be smart.
We've concluded that he's running for vice president,
Yep.
and we're really great with that.
But we really got to help him get there.
Yes.
He's not going to be a viable candidate if we don't support him. So this is one of those things where you have to be politically savvy enough to understand what your
Absolutely.
support is doing.
Absolutely.
And on the ground, these are the kind of things you explain to people. These are
Yes.
the kind of conversations that we need to be having, especially in the African American community, because we get so blindly loyal to one concept.
That's
but
right.
the truth of the matter is that we have to attack this thing on all fronts.
and make sure that our voice is heard, and have our agenda and policy in place to make sure that there's going to be respect for our issues regardless of who's in office.
Absolutely.
And I think that we're fortunate in the state of Maryland, because there is a Republican governor right now. It's forced many people to say, hey, what's your mission? What's your focus? What's your issue? What's your priority? And communicate that. And so there's been ripple effects already in the Maryland electorate. And then going forward, Holly, I'm excited, and this is just a Jennifer sidebar, because the We Three Conference is just about to get underway in
Yes.
celebrating women educated, women empowered, women engaged. And one of our main themes is legislative advocacy, and voting. And so I'm pretty excited. Holly Holiday and her crew, Holly could be there by herself, is going to be a major component
Yes,
of
yes.
our We Three effort.
Well, it's going to
keeping
be
in mind
all
that
about the
voting
vote,
and
I
advocacy.
promise
Absolutely.
you from this. Well, actually, I think I said this when we talked about when Hillary announced. But it's not so much about Hillary. It's really about us and our community.
Yes.
And us is black people and our community and what we're going to do. And we've got to be savvier. So I intend to spend every week, at least part of the show, discussing, how strategically we start to do that.
Absolutely.
And one way is, at this point, to be honest with you, forget Hillary. Hillary's going to make it. She going to be all right. That's not where you make an impact.
That's right.
It's actually almost better for you to come out in droves for one of the other candidates to demonstrate that you think that they
power.
are the viable people, because then your voice gets to really be heard. Right now,
Absolutely.
everybody's crowding around Hillary, and that's great, and they should. But if you really want to get recognized and you really want to delineate where your power is,
Yes.
focus on somebody who you want to be her number two, and let's go put our voices behind them so that when they go to the table with a clear negotiation strategy.
That's right.
Like, they're able to communicate with the African American people. They're able to bring that voice to the table, and it's demonstrated because of the way they have supported him in coming out to stuff and writing checks.
Absolutely. So
and
to
in
make
voting.
sure
So
you're
really,
present.
think about what's happening here. In the primary, ain't nobody worried about Hillary. She gonna be all
Yeah,
right.
she gonna be fine.
We need to
It's
support
next.
the next person
That's
first,
right.
and then we come back and support her. We have not lost that opportunity. So,
That's right.
I'm just telling you a couple things to think
educating
about.
in a
Just
true
couple things to
360
think
way.
about.
Pastor, do you want to chime in on this, or do you have another news story that's on your mind?
No, I am listening.
Wonderful.
And I agree with the premise and the principle that we need to look at the number two person. The number one person whomever that may be, will have their own agenda carved out.
Yes.
But we need to have more of a strategic relationship
Right.
with our vote.
And
Right,
to leverage that.
Leverage it every
Absolutely.
sense. I'm
Absolutely.
not concerned, and people get involved in this party affiliation. I
Yes.
look at principle.
Yeah.
What is the principle that they stand for? And does it really mean that this next 4 years is going to be more of the same? Or is it going to really be a change?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I would even say that is a perfect segue into the other thing that I wanted to mention, and we really need to go get our praise on here, but and that is, the intent of the Republican Party
Yes.
to ensure that they are going to have at least 10% or more of the black vote. And honestly, if they can get to 12, they actually have a really great shot at winning, no matter who their candidate is.
Absolutely.
And the reality is, I kind of want to see that happen. In the back of my strategic mind.
Absolutely. And the
Because
strategy
again,
of-
the point is that you don't want to be a community that's marginalized.
Absolutely.
You want to be a community where your
Options.
voice is heard and where you create options for yourself. And at the end of the day, it's really not about the individual candidates or their parties. It's about, have you made your voice heard? Are you getting listened to in the field? And are you getting what you need out of it? Now, for
Yes.
me, that's not only about justice issues, but that's also, quite honestly, about economic issues. And so if I'm not hearing that, I really don't care who the president
Absolutely.
is. And the
Absolutely.
reality is, whoever sits in the White House is going to have very little impact
That's
on what's
right.
happening to me day to day anyway.
That's
It's these
right.
local folks, they be jamming me up with their random codes, and they won't let me build a deck on my house, and they won't fix these freaking potholes that's tearing up my brand new car. I mean, that's the stuff that economically phases me on a regular
Absolutely.
basis. They've raised the price of and the requirements that you need to have in order to get licenses for certain things.
Yes.
Just ridiculous.
Just the day-to-day, what we call it, penny pinching at every
Oh
turn.
my God, can't stand
Well,
it.
I'll say it this way. I applaud what you, Dr. Jones, and what Ms. Holliday is doing and are doing together. That one thing I have found in dealing with you, ma'am,
Yes.
it seems like the sisters you have your act together.
That's
You're
right.
very clear on your focus. You're very clear on your strategic direction. Unfortunately, I cannot say that for the Brotherhood.
Right.
I do not
That's
see
right.
it. I don't see the leadership. I don't hear it. No, the current officials are not the ones I elected.
Yes.
They do not represent my interests. There is no vision. There is no drive. And because the community is in decay and disparity at
That's
this
right.
point,
That's
well,
right.
where are the men who are going to stand up and say, enough is enough?
We got
That's
to
right.
get them in, because the reality is that the African American community cannot be split by gender.
Not
we
at
are
all.
a whole community. We came here together. We live together. We breathe together. We fight together. Lord knows we fight together. But we also just are going to live and survive and prosper together.
And it's
so
so
we've got to bring
important.
that into the focus. Absolutely.
You're absolutely right, because I got a videotape today from some place that I was speaking, and I sent the videotape to a friend who said they wanted to see it. And she said, I just thought you were all pro women. And I said, listen, this thing works so much better when men and women are together. There was a design and a plan for family units. There's strength in unity. And so I believe in unity. And she said, but you were pumping the men up, saying you love seeing a man on purpose and a man who's focused and strong. And I said, yeah, because that's all I know in my personal experience.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm realizing that when we look at the murders of black men by police, then we look at black on black crime, like every other culture, race on race crime is the highest, and for every culture above 80%. But specifically with regard to African American black males, there is an epidemic and a pandemic with regard to their future. I had an accomplished, successful black man today say, it seems as if black men are on the verge of virtual extinction in participating in American society. And he said, and I'm not talking about myself and my peers, I'm talking about we're 5 or 10%. Where the other 90% of the brothers at? And so I welcome Pastor Payne today in our conversation for you to share some of your thoughts. Last Saturday, Alfred Street Baptist Church had a wonderful program, No Exceptions, for men. And what they wanted to do was to begin to have this conversation to say to the young men and boys who feel disenfranchised, come. But their mission was really to galvanize the men. To say, if you work and you got a job and you got a family, you need to show up and give some of your time, talent, and resource to helping other men.
Yes, agreed. But see, what the problem I see from a pastoral standpoint is that our men are now feeling left out. Some self-inflicted.
Yes.
Some is just the way it has come across from a society standpoint. The other aspect of it is, often, nothing against the sisters, I married a woman, is that most men can't leave their home.
That's right.
Because of whatever the
because of the
reasons are.
dynamics that we've not been taught that because there's been a shift in the last 20 years, especially among African American women, opportunities for high level employment, opportunities for gainful employment were higher among African American women than African American men. That by itself set up a structure that suggested that there would not be able to be unity in the home. So it takes a very strong man and a very wise woman to be able to coexist in a unit and a union to enable to say, whatever income comes into my house, I'm still going to respect some faith-based biblical principles that suggest a man is responsible and head of the household, and we're going to be a unit and follow. I'm going to be the bad sister that I am, and I'm gonna make sure that the man that I unite with is bad, even if he finds himself unemployed, even if he finds himself in a valley experience, and I'm not going to flip the script. So you're right. There are a lot of women wishing they had a man, but I make $140,000 a year, and I'm not marrying somebody who makes 65.
Absolutely, and I believe that's promulgated by what the institutions that should teach such, the church as well as academia, need to ensure that a man understands his role and a woman understands her role. I've listened, and you say, well, what does that mean? Exactly what I said. Check the Bible anytime. What the problem has been is that we go to all of these different groups and these different entities and outreach, and nothing is ever accomplished.
Yes.
That we need to stop trying to have a Cosby mentality when it in fact is a good time mentality.
Right.
The brother is always struggling, and it has nothing to do with the fact he cannot get an education. Sure,
Exactly.
he can get an education. She can get an education. But what the problem keeps being is that after all is said and done, you're right, there's disparity in the home. The sister is making the money, the brother may not be making that type of money.
Right.
So then it becomes mine instead of we.
Right.
It becomes they instead of us. It becomes, well, what we plan to do. Well, not the case. My mother raised me. I've said that on the show before, and that she was very clear. Here's what you need to do, and here's how you need to do that. And she taught me as a man what to do with a family.
Yes.
Now we have families where the mom is 12 years old, and she's got 2 children at 12 years old. You have a grandmother at 24. You have a great-grandmother at 36 and a great-great-grandmother at 48. I remember when I was a kid, my grandmother was in her 60s. I thought that was a long ways off.
Yes.
So now you have the dynamics of the family being impacted on decisions where I'm in a community where we cannot read and write. We're happy with 45% to 49% of the students graduating. And then in turn, we spend $120 million for a school to be constructed, and it's no more than $120 million daycare center.
Right.
So now we expect somebody to give us something. No, there's not. The Bible says if you don't work, you do
don't
not
eat.
Period. So now there's a reason why that was there.
Yes.
So now and it does something to me every time I go someplace. I look up, I see the woman, she's driving, the brother is sitting in the passenger seat. Or one day I saw the sister pushing the cart. She's a very small, diminutive woman. She's pushing the cart of food. She unloads the car. She then takes the cart back while Home Slice is playing the video game. I said, I need to beat her and him.
Right.
I don't understand that. That's what's accepted. And because we continue to run after this myth, it's going to change through osmosis. Now we're sitting here saying, well, what's the problem?
Right.
I don't see you. I don't see this dear sister. I don't see all the ladies that you've introduced me to. And,
Yes.
and Dr. Morrell and I often talk about it. I said, those sisters got their ducks in a row. They really do.
Yeah.
So the issue becomes, what now is the family? What should we do with all that's happening, all that can happen politically, and then in turn translate that into an everyday, daily strategy, daily mindset,
Right.
so that
Right.
we're constantly looking at, what does that really mean to me? What does that mean to my 7 children, my 7 children?
Yes.
What does that mean to my 10 grandchildren?
The kitchen table.
That's
The kitchen
exactly
table.
right.
What does it mean
Absolutely.
at the kitchen table?
My mother sat down and said to me, this is what you need to do, boy. I said, yes, ma'am. That was it. It was my mother. My
Yes.
father was killed in Vietnam. So she picked up that role, but she never said...
She never demonstrated the expectation of you being less.
That is correct.
Than being the keeper of security, the keeper of well-being, and the lead.
That is correct.
And so in our society, the thing that I always see when I look at black families and at the families of poor who are fragmented and disenfranchised is that in every other cultural group, men are able to assume a position of strength, a position of leadership, and a position of authority.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes, ma'am.
unfortunately, too often in the African American experience, that is not seen. It's not normal. It's normal for you to see a boardroom, for example. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough illustrated this beautifully. A boardroom where it's a boardroom full of men and it's 1 or 2 women.
Mm-hmm.
And of the 2 women, one of them will be black. There will rarely be a black man in the boardroom.
That is correct.
And so he articulated that every day we're sending black women to go into boardrooms and fight the good fight, battling men from every other culture.
Yes, ma'am.
And he said, and if you examine that from he was purely talking about the corporate business experience, that translates into that woman needing to be able to contend with her colleagues and peers.
Yes, ma'am.
So how do you go home and turn that off? Not suggesting that you should not be a strong and powerful woman, but then what do you do for the man in your life that you happen to love? You can't make a man. A woman can't make a man, and you can't make a man. You can have expectations.
Yes, ma'am.
But what do you do?
Well, what you do is what I see happening now, that women are pressing the envelope, say, brothers, you need to step up.
Step up. Expectations.
That's
And
exactly
that's
right.
what I've heard so many women have been saying to the young girls. If you would put your clothes back on
There you go.
and have some requirements for the young men, they would rise to what you require them to.
That is true.
But when you require very little, you get very little.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I'm fortunate that I have a strong, way strong. But I'm attracted to a man who's like the men I grew up with. And I always say to some of my friends when they face challenges that sometimes the alpha male in us
Yes, ma'am.
are way too much for other men.
That's true.
Because our daddies were strong men.
That's
and so
true.
when you are surrounded and come from an environment where you've seen strong men and strong women,
Yes.
you get a Jennifer, you get a Holly.
Yes,
because we have a whole lot that's been built into us. I always tell Holly, we're keepers of the dream. You know, we are the embodiment of what the generations before us dreamed about. But they also dreamed that when we choose to, we would choose to become moms and become mothers and become wives. And that's the dynamic that most of my friends who are mature, young adults and or full adults and who are single are simply at the place where they cannot find a brother who can contend with them. And they've been taught, we've all been taught, don't settle.
That is correct.
And don't settle has nothing to do with the job. It has to do with the mindset and experience in the home.
That is true.
So, Holly, you have a thought or opinion? I know you got hundreds of them.
Well, I think that I don't know that I come from a different perspective. I think, for me, I focus on running my race.
Yes.
That's what I focus on. I try to get up every day and be the best person I can be. I try to contribute to my community and my family in the best way that I can, and that's what I focus on. If other people come along and are supportive of that, that's great. If they don't, that's just as great for me.
Yes.
So, I think the thing is to focus on and to instill in every individual that they get up every day facing their best race.
Right.
From that standpoint, that's what I look for in a human being. To be honest with you, I don't have friends, male or female, that don't live by that principle.
Right.
So it starts there for me. And I think that if people embrace that, then they're going to find like-minded people that are surrounding them with that same philosophy. I'm not here to raise people. That's your mama's job. I'm not here to, I hope it got done. And in some cases, maybe you have to raise yourself. But I think for me, it's really about the mindset piece. Are you living your best life? Are you seeking your best life? And in the Christian framework, are you seeking to be the best Christ-like individual that you can be? If all of that is happening, then it's good. The reality is that most of us don't live that way, and that's why I don't associate with most of us, regardless of race, regardless of
culture,
gender,
but
or
just
culture, or whatever. Because for me, it's about constantly surrounding myself with people who are themselves seeking to be the best that they can be and to live their best lives. So that's what it's about.
When we're thinking about from a solution standpoint, in a messaging standpoint, when we're mentoring young folk, when we're engaging young folk in having experiences that help them become who they are, in that, how do you address the issues of when people don't even know that they don't know that there is a best self to be?
Yeah, that's tough, and for me, it sort of comes from living by example.
There you go.
But the reality is that you gotta want it, know, and you have to. And what I try to do is be the example and try to, show the example in the most unlikely places, so that people see that there are options. But this thing, my favorite thing, my pastor at home, Emmanuel Cleaver, Dr. Reed now, but his father, Emmanuel Cleaver II, he used to always talk about God and his sense of humor.
Yes.
And God's sense of humor is he gave the most ignorant people the right to decide. We are the most flawed creatures, which he knew.
Yes.
And yet he trusted us enough to
make the
these
wise decision. Yes.
And boy, do we screw that up on a regular
every
basis.
Day.
And
No,
but unfortunately, that's the truth. The truth is that we have to decide. Individuals have to decide. And until they decide, it's tough.
You filter, and so
it's filter, and they have to choose it, and it's the hardest.
It's the
thing
hardest
in the
thing
world.
in
It's
the
the
world.
hardest single decision that a person can make in their life is to choose to be their best selves. It sounds obvious, right? It sounds like it would be the thing to do, but when you decide to be your best self, there's so many other automatic decisions that come along with that. When you decide to walk a certain way and to be and delve into your best self, it means that some of those things that you're doing, you just don't do anymore.
Period.
Period,
It becomes
because it's not
unacceptable,
part of
which was
your
one of your big
philosophies.
words. It becomes unacceptable. And so I believe in the Maya Angelou, when you know better, do better.
Well, I think when you choose
I'm
better,
saying
do better.
I'm concerned
you know?
that people. My big concern, and this is me filtering, has been a word that I've embraced in the last 2 weeks. This is me saying, I have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and if I'm gonna give some of my energy to do what I believe is my part to help others, I've got to find a way to make the best use of that energy for a return on my investment of time, talent, and energy.
Yes.
And so with that regard, I really am in some place where I am beginning to realize many people, educated and not, different ages, definitely different genders, and definitely different cultures, many people don't even know what they don't know. And so if there's not going to be a teacher, the students, there used to be a Chinese proverb that said, when the teacher's ready to teach, the student will come. And when the student's ready to learn, the teacher will come. And I'm saying people don't even know that there's a choice and an option to learn and to grow.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, Jennifer, and this is kind of where my line is. Thank God it's people like you and Pastor Payne. Because I'm be honest with you, I'm just not all that concerned with the folks who choose not to be their best selves.
Right.
I mean, I just don't have the time. I'm not necessarily writing them off. I'm just choosing to focus on
to invest
my path.
your energy.
And I thank God every day that there are people who have a charitable heart and spirit. I wish that I was one of them sometimes, but I'm truly not. I think.
Well, you
for
help
me,
people like us balance. That's why you and I work so well together. Jennifer, you might want to think about that investment of time. I don't think it's going to produce.
I love that because I think that you all are truly doing the Lord's work in many, many different ways.
But I think the other side, Holly, when you write the check, when you keep it when you introduce reality into the circumstance, I think that I'm going to call it that tough love part, which is where I'm realizing my tough love, Jennifer, the professorial Jennifer, is where I am. Like, you didn't get the assignment done. 350 other students got their assignment done. What you talking about? Mama died? Daddy died? You were in the hospital? No? Then you are not going to get this grade because you didn't get the assignment done. But if you retake my class, I promise to teach you in an unbiased fashion because I believe in you. That's professorial Jennifer. And I'm in a place, and I'm happy that we're going to continue and have a beautiful conversation about the CDF faith-based initiative, because in that initiative, I am mind blown, not just with Ward 8 in this community, not just with Baltimore, but I'm mind blown across the country because I'm thinking about 50 years from now. I'm thinking about 100 years from now.
My role, self-proclaimed in all of this, is to fight for the right, for the opportunities to exist, to work with the people who can create access, to provide access, and to hopefully live a good, principled life by example.
By example, yes.
But here's what I'm not going to do, which thank God there's other people out there. This is why it takes a village. I'm not going to make you choose.
Yes, I'm going to create the opportunity, but I'm not
going to sit over you and watch you choose. I'm not going to go visit you when you choose badly.
Right.
I'm not going to extend myself for people who are not helping themselves. That's just not in me. Thank God there are people out there who do that. It is not me.
I think that's a fair, and because I know you, I'm like, I count on that, Holly. So you can say, this is the line. Don't cross it. Because of people like Pastor Payne.
But it comes from, it sounds terrible. I get a lot of pushback and criticism about it.
No, it's necessary.
But I try to be honest in the way of my own approach. my daddy used to say, you cannot save anybody if y'all are both drowning.
Yeah.
And so I focus on the principle of, building my boat and reaching out and extending to other people who can be a part of the building process.
Yes, I was gonna say, and for our listening audience, I want you to really know when Holly is talking in the space of creating opportunities, when she's talking in the space of ensuring access, ensuring there's something to choose, you don't see the work that you do in the creation of opportunity, creation of access in terms of leveraging power, leveraging focus, leveraging money,
Yeah,
backing it up
absolutely.
with data,
Yeah.
backing it up with facts.
Absolutely.
So you serve a very necessary part. It's like law enforcement. There are laws on the books, there are laws that have to be kept, and then there are enforcers of the law. And as we see in Baltimore right now, when law enforcement steps back for a minute, the murder rate goes up. When law enforcement steps back, but that doesn't mean policy changes. So there are all sides. So I'm going to leave with it takes a village. And we're going to take a quick song break because I know
yes.
our engineer must be like, well, they missed that one. Well, they missed that one. So I'm going to ask him to go back up to the
I'm
second
not in
song
charge.
and share with my place so that we can come back and continue this magnificent conversation. The conversation that we're having is about the Seed Faith-Based Initiative, politics, the community, focus, planning, life, and what do you do to transform yourself? So my answer is going to be Bishop T.D. Jakes and the Potter's House Choir saying, let's just praise the Lord.
All right.
For you, you ought to give him praise right now.
For the week.
If he blessed you and brought you and helped you and healed you, you ought to give him praise right now. Let's just praise the Lord.
They made a big deal out of it because the young lady did it.
We're back.
Welcome.
Well,
back
we
to
managed to
Truth
talk an
360.
entire hour. Clearly, I could not leave I missed. This is why I cannot take these kind of breaks because I
That's
just
all right,
can't
Holly. That's
shut
a good
up.
thing.
And I started talking. I looked. I was like, we have this wonderful new digital clock in the studio now.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Morgan and Foster
Thank
and
you,
Jeremy,
Morgan,
for the
Foster,
clock.
and Jeremy.
And it keeps perfect time. And I have paid absolutely no attention to it. So in the second hour, we'll try to do a little bit better for our listening
I think
audience because
we
I know
did.
they were like, "What is happening on this show?"
We did a beautiful thing, Holly. Because what I wanted to do was two things. Most of you who are weekly Truth 360 listeners and viewers have already heard us talk about the St. Elizabeth's East faith-based initiative.
Yes.
And so the Seed faith-based initiative is a beautiful organization championed and captained by Pastor Ricardo Payne and Dr. Victor Morrell. Dr. Morrell was not able to join us today, but we are so fortunate to have Pastor Payne because, Holly, we are blessed to be in the company of greatness in Humble.
Yeah.
And I say that because I'm going to ask him a second time to tell his story about his humble beginnings and how he became. But this pastor is retired military, retired White House sir, retired strategist, retired scholar, just an amazing person who is looking into the community where his church, the Lighthouse Baptist Church, rests, and is saying in this community that is 93% African American, people of color, in a resident population in Ward 8 of about 70,000 plus individuals, where there are some beautiful things in Ward 8, but unfortunately, there's also a number of challenges. And so the conversation that we've been having in our first hour, Holly, which was one where we were talking about our community, and our community, as you know, for you and I, includes not just the challenge, but it includes the business owners who are seeking more opportunity and capitalization. It includes the professional. It includes every facet of every other community in American society.
Yes.
And so in our being the fortunate and the blessed who walk with degrees, education, talent, companies, and all of the gifts that our listeners know that we have as hosts, and Pastor Payne being a very accomplished individual and leader looking into the community, I think that we've done an excellent job of framing the value of expectation. And so the question that I want to start, Pastor Payne, with is tell our listeners what is and who is the Seed Faith-Based Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
The Seed Faith-Based Initiative is the St. Elizabeth East Development Faith-Based Initiative. It just so happens that our church is only a half mile from the campus east of St. Elizabeth, and it's under major renovation and will be part of a 10-year project. And what the developer did, he said, look, what we need to do is also ensure that there is give back, very substantial give back to the community. And he asked that I become the leader of the faith-based initiative. And out of that, and with the clearly the God-given talent that you have, Dr. Jones, we now have crystallized and formally, from a granularization standpoint, so you know what, here's some other things that we need to include.
Yes.
Which includes dealing with health, which includes dealing with IT, which includes dealing with financial literacy, which includes just illiteracy and literacy in general.
Absolutely.
And so now it's spawned out into several other concentric circles of effort
Absolutely.
that we are now in a position that whether it's within the district or whether it's in Maryland or Virginia or Compton or Chi-Town or the Bronx or Charlotte or any other part of the United States of America, it's the same focus that we have to start expecting more from those that are within the community and without the community.
Absolutely. And one of the cornerstones that I've loved since I've been engaged as a part of the project is that the ultimate goal is an economic one.
That is correct.
It's workforce development, and it's economic development, and it's business development in those orders, that we want to prepare individuals to use their time, talent, and treasure for gainful employment. Whether that means going to school and getting a degree, getting a certification, and or just being qualified for employment. We want to say to the businesses that exist, how do we strengthen you to be able to take advantage of this growth that's going to happen in the community?
Yes.
And then for people who are interested in bringing businesses to the community, to ensure that you get the kind of support to be successful in that.
And part of that, though, let's take, you were talking about economic development. Let's talk about just mindset development.
Right, absolutely.
We have sung and shouted the victory for how long? I am tired of the choirs. I'm tired of the pastors living a high lifestyle, the people living in poverty. I'm tired of looking at the shows. And I remember when I was growing up and we were reading Ebony or Jet at the time, and they would show the lifestyle of the rich and famous African Americans.
Right.
This is what I ascribe to have. But the problem was they never talked about the sweat equity and the process of the hard work and the sacrifice and all of that. And so now what is starting to happen, at least as I see it, so now we got the emphasis on all these things. What kind of sense does it make to have in your community not one jewelry store, but 15 jewelry stores, not one tennis shoe place, but 30 tennis shoe places in the same mall, that all of them are profitable? Because now we would rather take our hard-earned money, and then in turn, I'm sure someone has the statistics of how many people save, how much money they save, where in fact our people in Ward 8 are pressed to the mat to say, look, I have $100 or $1,000 or whatever it may be saved up. It's a mindset. We need to stop relying on others to do what we can do, and that starts in the churches. It starts in the pulpit. It starts in the home. We need to start holding people ourselves accountable. As the late Dr. Rollard would say, the only one that can save us from us is us, and we need to stop blaming people. I don't hear Jewish people blaming themselves. I don't hear Asians blaming people. I don't hear Spanish. We always want to put it on, and nothing against Caucasian. It's the white man. It is not the white man.
Right.
And you put away those Xboxes, throw away the iPhone, sit down with the book,
There's no
stop
way.
justifying what we do, and get involved in the process called life. Then things will change. And until we do that, you need to cut out the welfare. You need to cut out the aid. Cut it out. How long has it been since we just all of a sudden say, you know what, enough is enough? You say, well, what did you grow? I grew up on welfare. My mother was very clear when I was 6 and 7 years old. There's nothing honorable about this. Boy, as soon as we get off this, we're going to do something else. And guess what? By the time I became 8 or 9, we were off welfare. My mother raised us by herself. My dad was killed in Vietnam. My mother never apologized. She went back to school, got her GED. She went back to school and got her college degree. She kept us together and went to church and did all the things she did, but she held me accountable for my actions.
Absolutely.
No one else.
Absolutely.
And I'm coming from the deep South. And so the issue now is we have all these programs. We have before care. We have aftercare. We have during school care. We have Saturday school. Now, instead of just Sunday school, we got Sunday school where people can go. No, guess what? We did not have that as an option. So it has nothing to do with when you, ma'am, were going to school, and ma'am, when you were going to school, you made choices, back to your point, that, you know what, I don't have time to go to the club. I don't have time to be worried about what I'm going to wear and what I'm going to drive. Here are my books. Here is my objective, and you stayed true to that. So now all of a sudden, as the children would say in the vernacular, you're hating. And then now we continue to believe that someone is concerned. I agree with what Ms. Holliday says. Enough is enough.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
You know, Pastor, in truth, I have to say, you know, the good news is that you can choose a middle ground and still rise. You know, I wish I could sit here and honestly say to you that I didn't spend a significant amount of time in the club, but that's not true.
Yes, ma'am. I hear you.
I wish I could sit here and say to you that I haven't wasted more than my fair share of dollars on meaningless things, including this iPhone that I cracked that I
Gifts
will
and
be
splurging.
paying to get the screen fixed because I am so attached to it. I wish
Yes.
I could be that person. And furthermore, I wish I could be the person to say that I'm not going to continue to do some of that behavior in the future. But here's what I do know. In spite of that, you choose excellence. The
That's right.
idea of the help is just that, is to help. It is not the substitute for the context of your life. You know, I'm not from the deep south, so I can't claim those lessons. I'm from the broad Midwest and the open. And what I will say is that I think that people, it definitely, for me, it starts with the pursuit of excellence. We can't blame the things. We can't blame the examples for the fact that we didn't
Yes.
learn it.
Yes.
You know, the problem is, and I do agree with this part, it does come back to hard work and sacrifice.
That's
Yes.
My dad and my mom were very clear about something very important and very early in life, and we are a family that is extremely concerned about wealth. And definitely mistakes have been made, money has been lost, fortunes have been lost, in fact, over the years, but it has not tempered our family desire to be concerned about wealth. And
Yes.
still to this day, we pursue that in a family way.
Right.
Okay.
That being said, you know, the big point I make here is it all came with the understanding that while it may look easy, it's not easy.
No,
It's
ma'am.
And
hard.
every decision towards excellence is a decision that you make towards sacrifice.
Yes.
And sometimes, and that's what I think, that is the lesson, or that is the message that somehow gets misconveyed, because I do think, now one thing I will say about some of the portrayals is a lot of people portray their success as an overnight situation.
Overnight.
That is correct, ma'am.
Yes.
They're not
yes.
honest about what
About
it
the
took to
sacrifice.
get there.
Yes.
They're not honest about what it takes to stay there. They're not honest about even what it takes to move to the next level.
Absolutely. And because of Holly, whenever I do the 10 Pearls of Wisdom speech, right, people are always pumped up about the 10 Pearls of Wisdom, and they are amazing for energizing you to think towards excellence and towards pursuing and using your time, talent, and treasure for good. But before I give those 10 Pearls of Wisdom in business and in life success, I talk about how every successful person that I know has had 3 experiences in some form. They absolutely all have had some time where they had to give it up. They had to go without something. They had to burn some midnight oil. They had to make a sacrifice that hurt in order to see that dream come true. They had to have an experience where they silenced the voices around them because somebody said, I know you're not going to keep going. This is not working. You failed once. Don't keep going. And then they had to come to some place where they had to do your favorite word, Holly, choose. They had to choose to believe in their vision for what they were trying to accomplish more than what it looked like. And so I don't know, and I think
Absolutely.
that when I see successful people who manage their success well, there's something that George Fraser always says, there are 2 things that he looks for in people: how people act when they don't have money and how they behave when they get it. And I think that when I see successful people who manage their lives well, whether they're successful and quiet and humble, or they're successful and flamboyant but responsible, meaning they splurge, they drive the nice car, but they don't ever let you forget, I worked hard to be here. And so I think when I'm looking at the Seed Faith-Based Initiative and the things that we're trying to accomplish, I'm excited that we had the foreknowledge and planning to think about meeting people where they are.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
we're saying we know that your mind may not be clear to make the best choices. So we're going to help you with your mind and spirit. We know that your vision may be overshadowed by the day-to-day struggles that you have or the experiences that you've had. So we're going to cast some vision and inspire you and give you some tangible examples of success. And then we're going to look at your health. And we're going to say to you, you can't do what we've done and what people greater, quote unquote, than us have done. What successful people have accomplished, whether success was raising a family or whether success was owning your own multi-million or multi-billion dollar firm. Whatever end of the spectrum of success that you look on, you can't do this without a sound mind, without good health and focus.
That's correct.
And so when I'm listening, Holly, and I always tell you, I love how much you balance the reality that I don't do a good job of cajoling problems. I am a solution-oriented person who says, this is a problem. Okay, let me find a solution, and then let me give you a path forward to get there. And that's what I'm loving about the support and vision of Seed, because it's saying we understand where you are. We understand that of the 70,000 residents, there's, over 70% that are struggling with literacy. We understand the socioeconomic status of the community. So we're going to meet you where you are. We're going to inspire you. We're going to build you, give you opportunities. Let me say it in a very beautiful Holly way. We're going to give you the opportunity to build yourself up, to strengthen yourself, to get healthy and get strong so that you can take advantage of the opportunities that are in store for you. But before we can look at workforce development, economic development, community development, business development, we've got to help you move forward. Now, we're going to give you the resources, but what we're saying today, and I think this is going to be key going forward because it answers one of my huge, thinking about energy and resource and capacity going forward. You have got to choose this. You've got to want this. So see, Holly, I'm going to have a big old sign. Choose. As George Fraser always says, chase excellence, not money. If you are excellent, the money will come. Chase excellence. And so I think I want a big sign, Pastor Payne, that says, choose. It's your right. Excellence is your choice. And I want to push that message so much because as I've been thinking about Baltimore and Ward 8 and all of our communities across the country, as we've been talking about financial literacy and literacy, I'm really in a unique place because the big giving heart of me says, I want a return on my investment.
Yes, ma'am.
I want a return.
That's your big heart that says you want a return.
Yeah, it's my mind. Because my mind, I can truly tell you this, and Pastor Payne knows I rarely see, Holly, I don't see limitation. Like, we can do it. But I'm really feeling like the problem is big and broad and deep. And it's going to not only take a village, it's going to take a concerted effort by almost every major segment of society if we want to provide and create opportunities for more people than not to have a path forward in their lives. When there are robots that are being designed to say, I can flip the hamburger in McDonald's and I can fry the chicken in Popeyes, then that means some people not going to have some jobs.
Well, that's the same thing as we know. You can go to a gas station when we used to go get high tests.
Yes.
And I pump gas and I would clean and squeegee your windshield and check your oil, ma'am, and all of that. I'm going back to when gas was 20 and 25 cents a gallon, so I can go back that far. But now you have one person that will sit in a kiosk controlling 30 to 40 pumps at one time.
That's right.
So now, where are those jobs going? I remember working in a backer field, or tobacco for those that may not know what a backer field is. Backer
Was
field.
me. I was like, what is that?
Tobacco. That's green leaves. Tobacco leaves are green. Backer field and a cucumber patch and cotton field down in North Carolina. and I made 25 cents an hour. I worked 6 days a week. I ended up with $21 at the end of the week. And then in turn, I lost $5. You said, well, how did you lose $5? I said, when I would go for our break, we had started, 5 and 6 in the morning. I would get me a lassie cake with some jungle juice and some Viennas and crackers, and then Mr. Bobo and Mr. Charlie would charge me for that, and I didn't know. So at the end of the week, instead of me getting $21, I only got $16.
Wow.
But what ended up happening out of that, and it's good to hear you say, ma'am, that your family believed in wealth and believes in wealth, and your family taught that. Well, what my mother did was, when I was a paper boy and I sold newspaper at 5 cents a copy, 6 days a week, 30 cents a week, and I would have to go collect the money from that. She said, now you count this money. She said, that's how much money goes to them, and this is how much you keep. And I looked at what I was keeping and how much I was giving away. Something is wrong. The object lessons were not being taught. The drive, as far as excellence was concerned, and still is concerned for today, is, you know what? You have a nice car, but I'm living in a shack. We cannot afford health care, but we have the nicest watch, the nicest bracelets. But you look at people who have means, they are not concerned about those things.
Right. Well, the biggest, it's interesting. My brother and I have this conversation frequently as we talk about the various decisions that the young folks in our family are making. And I think the biggest enemy to our community has been comfort.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And convenience.
Yes,
ma'am. You can get, even though you may be taking advantage of charity programs or whatever it can be, you may be living in a house, you get comfortable with that situation, that becomes an okay thing for you. It becomes, you live in a community that starts to validate that it's okay to be that way. It's okay, and I'm not saying that way in a negative, but that the lifestyle is fine.
Yes, ma'am.
That the lifestyle is appropriate.
Is acceptable.
That the lifestyle is acceptable. And even when we think, we've had to pull back on some of the things that we do, because we look at it, because when you think about those experiences that you had, your instinct as a parent and as a caretaker is that you don't want other people to experience those hardships and the pain. And so we have become masters at masking the pain. We have become masters at hiding the struggle. We've become masters at tempering the turbulence, and so I think that becomes a big, real piece of it. When I had foster children, even though I was extremely young and had no freaking clue what I was doing, absolutely none. Bless their hearts, they made it out alive. The big thing was that it had is that the only thing that I could really bring to them was the honesty, right?
To be transparent.
Was to be transparent, was to show them this is really hard, to say to them and to live in truth and honesty with them. Their situation, it sucks, but this does not have to define you. And then sort of when it came to dealing with kids in my family and my brother, and oh my God, I am so embarrassed to say the lavish Christmases and holidays and birthdays that we've bestowed upon them, and now we can't get them to even roll out of bed to do anything.
Yes.
They are simply a product of what we have taught them. And so
I completely agree, Holly, because it's something I was just sharing last week with someone. We were having a conversation about financial literacy, and I was sharing with them that, when my sons were 1 and 4, we moved into this huge 5,500 square foot house, and they could run. It was like a park to them, and they could run and play. And I had rules that I still carry on today at 17 and 20. When they were like, Mom, we want shoes, especially the 4-year-old. He was an athlete. So I would tell him, you have play tennis shoes, you have school tennis shoes for gym, and you have your basketball shoes for your athletics. You will not have another piece. So I dealt with them, being from the Deep South myself, like the mindset that when I give you a gift, it's going to be something you're going to appreciate, because I'm going to make sure that you understand the difference between your church clothes, your school uniforms, your play clothes, and then your when we're going to somewhere special that's not school or church clothes. And so to my older son, I remember when he was a freshman in college, he was like, Mom, you need to send me some more money. And I said, I tried to tell you, don't keep going to the beach, don't keep doing this stuff. You spent all your gift money from graduation. I'm giving you this budget, no more, no less. And then he said, but I'm so broke. I said, I know you have a card you can eat 5 times a day, and I know you have a safe place to sleep. Do you need water? Because I'll send you some. And then I said, what about your peers? Are all your peers just walking around swiping their credit cards and spending cash and riding in BMWs? He said, no, they broke too. I said, good. Their parents are doing the right thing. And so I'm trying to motivate him and them, and to say, hey, I want it to come from within. That because you want something, now you're going to pursue it. And now that I see you pursuing it, now I'm going to help you.
Well, to Ms. Holliday's point, I think at this point, and I look at that every day where I pastor,
Yes.
that the two downfalls that face us and faces us as people, comfort and convenience. If that program that provides you sustenance, a place to live, food to eat, a place to get your medical and all these other things were no longer in existence, what would you do?
Yes.
Convenience. Well, now we're demanding certain types of services within that region of the city. However, I don't hear anyone else within other regions of the city demanding anything.
The same service. Wow.
I also remember something that is unbiblical, and I want someone to say to me it is biblical. I do not want my children to experience the hardships. What hardships? Mama said if I did not work, I was not going to eat.
Right.
Mama said if I did not go to school, I'm quoting my mother because my father was killed when I was 9.
Exactly.
Mama said you do not turn your work in on time, you cannot expect to pass the grade.
Right.
You do not come looking for a handout from the jump. So now, here we are. We've talked about all these issues. We've talked about the lack of leadership. We vote the same people in. We do more of the same. Then we expect a different result. No, we need to change our mindset.
That's right.
And the mindset starts with no one owes me anything.
Right.
Period.
Right.
And that once we look towards excellence, we're driven. It's criminal that we expect a 25% graduation rate to equal some kind of, it's like I was at another event and the doctor said to his child, he says, you know, what did you do about this particular subject? And they proudly showed the report card. They made 98%. The doctor shot back to his child. He said, what happened to the other 2 points?
Exactly.
So what does 98% mean?
That's
It
right.
means nothing. And that if we have a low expectation, I can assure you we will have a low outcome. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, we have to balance it. So why then do we just continue to throw more money after bad money and the mindset hasn't changed? That we expect people to say, well, don't you understand? I don't have anything to eat today. Really? But if I were to squeeze your cheek, I'd get at least a shot glass of liquor out of your jaw. You mentioned, ma'am, that you said, well, we all went to the club. I used to be a bartender at a club, but I'm not still in the club.
Right.
You made a decision. It was time to move out of that. You're also talking about
Sadly.
bad situation. Ms. Holiday.
Kicking and
I'm
screaming.
sorry.
Kicking and screaming.
I know you
I'ma
came
be
out.
good.
Be good. I thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Lord help me. But the point I'm making, many of us are in bad situations. We continue to expect that situation to change. To your point, Dr. Jones, If our women want to walk around with BB&T on, and I'm not talking about branch, bank, and trust, butt, breast, and thighs, and then expect to get a man, well, as a
Who's
pastor
gonna-
said to me, if you show a dog meat, you will get a dog every time. Why not cover your mess up, sister? I don't care what he says. And that the church needs to say that. When you go to most church, the most X-rated place sometimes is the church. The most dangerous place is the church.
Yeah.
So I'd rather take my shot in the street where at least people respect what I'm trying to do than to be in the house of God, going back to what Sister Holiday has said, that, oh, by the way, we're going to front today. You have pimps in the
gonna
pulpit,
perpetrate.
you have prostitution in the church, and then we expect a different change in the community. Well, it starts at the door. It starts at the house of God. Judgment begins at the house of God. Back up, back up. Anyway, as I was saying,
And we are so happy to hear you say.
as I was trying to say, the most challenging effort for me is to calm down with those African Americans that God have blessed, where all of a sudden they believe they're going to dictate what everyone else should experience. The Seed Faith Based Initiative, particularly dealing with this event on Saturday, I have been so mad with a brother who sent me an email. He does not even have the intestinal fortitude to pull a dead tick off a dead dog. Send me an email, and I said, you know what? You spell champ, CHAMP, and you spell chump, CHUMP, and the difference between champ and chump is you. I do not appreciate it. If you're not going to man up to say what you need to say, we have a need in our community. We need to do something about it. I'm not going to spend my time developing any thoughts on the matter.
Right.
And that in turn, what we ought to do is make a difference with those, like Miss Holiday would say, who want to change. The
That's
brother
right.
that want to snort crack, the sister that want to do some other things, that's what they choose to do. But I don't have any sympathy for such.
Right.
Well, the church ought to do. You ought to be, aren't you a man of God? I is one.
Right.
I am one. But the Bible also requires me to hold myself first accountable. I did not ask anybody to take care of my 7 children. I did not ask anyone to take care of my 10 grandchildren. And if I worked 3 jobs, and I did, and I went to night school, and I did, and I graduated first in my class, and I did, and I had 2 heart attacks, a stroke, and I was unemployed, I did, but bless God, they ate last night by the grace of God.
Right.
I don't hold others accountable. So,
So
I'm sorry.
accountability, expectations, choice, when opportunities are created for you. And so when we come back from our song break, we're going to begin to talk about our announcements and share this Saturday's coming event.
Yes, ma'am.
And other opportunities that are going to be had from the Seed Faith-Based Initiative and some community opportunities to move yourself towards excellence. So I'm going to flip Holly here and choose a song. And since we're going to talk about opportunities, is I'm going to go with Mary
Yes.
and suggest that everybody ought to be like Holly, Jennifer, and Pastor Payne and go get your blessing.
my soul, I'm
Hello, Tiffany. Hey, Tiffany, it's Holly. We're on song break, and we'll introduce you and give you a chance to talk about the longest day. You should be able to hear the show when I plug you into the board, right? Oh, yeah.
Oh, no doubt
Yep,
about it.
yep. I just want to let you know. So you'll hear me talk to you, and then we can hear you when you respond. No need for you to do anything. Okay? Yeah, I'll ask you. I'll let you. I'll give you a lead in, and you can share what's going to be happening on the longest day, and then I'll let you do some stuff around Alzheimer's in general. We'll have about 3 or 4 minutes or so on that segment. Okay. At the end of this song break. So you have a minute. Okay.
And I'm praising the Lord in heaven and cutting up. We don't want to take Holly like Holly is work. I excommunicate myself from foolishness.
Well, we're
Welcome
back.
back.
I don't. This has just been. I don't know if I've been testifying or you've been testifying and preaching up in here or what. But I definitely hope that we have gotten the message out about Seed, about the activities that are taking place Saturday, June 6th. That's this Saturday.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
St. Elizabeth East at the Rise Demonstration Center, which is a fabulous facility.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
And it's really great to have that on the campus of St. Elizabeth. St. Elizabeth, in and of itself, has become just a symbol of transformation in
Yes,
that
ma'am.
community, and so this program just fits right in with that level of transformation. And so I definitely hope that people will come out between 9:30 and 3 p.m. on this Saturday. These are all kind of services being offered, and we have certainly expressed a plethora of opinions about such. But the important thing is that this can be your first or second step, towards good health, towards healthy choices in your life, towards getting the things that you need to be on the road to success or to continue on the road to success. If not for you, then bring a friend, bring a relative, but definitely don't miss the opportunity to make a good choice by attending this event.
And Holly, I also want to make sure I send it out in our reminder blast for the show today, and I'll send it out in bonus content again, that anyone interested in volunteering on
Yes, ma'am.
Saturday
Absolutely.
can go to the medical mission at home.org. Is that
Yes,
the
ma'am.
correct?
That is correct. Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Medical mission at home.org.
Yes.
In order for you to register, it'll take you less than a minute to point
Yes.
click at your name and email address,
Yes.
and then send out the flyer, send out the notice that all are welcome. We can service
That
up
is
to
correct.
1,000 people
Yes, ma'am.
on Saturday. So come and get your free medical care, dental care, foot washing, prescription medicine for some of the common ailments that we have, free prescription glasses made on site, and all of the other services and resources.
Absolutely. And the people that will be providing the services are licensed practicing doctors and nurses. So this is not just a group of people say, well, we're going to check your blood pressure. We're going to do
pressure.
this. No, no, no,
Yes.
no. We're going to prescribe medicine on the spot to assist with such. And that more importantly, it's free. There are no
Absolutely.
strings attached. It's dental service includes cleaning and includes extraction, includes very basic health that needs to be taken care of. And
Absolutely.
you can't spend the money dead.
That's right.
So you haven't taken care of yourself. There may be other issues that are out there, but the Medical Mission at Home is hosted by Providence Health System, as well as in support of Ascension, the nation's largest Catholic and nonprofit health system.
Absolutely.
They're in 23 states. There's 171 hospitals that they own, and they provide this absolutely free. The address again is the St. Elizabeth East Rise Demonstration Center, 2730 Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue, Southeast. I said it incorrectly. South with an F, East, near the
Southeast.
Congress Heights Metro Center. And the event is from 9:30 to 1500, 3 o'clock p.m.
Absolutely.
The important piece of this portion of our show is this: come early. If you can imagine, we're going to start at 9:30. We've put out an awful lot of literature, mailers, time on this show, PSAs, and other things to get the word out. Every organization in Ward 8, we're pushing that as hard as we can
That's
to make
right.
sure that people understand it is exactly free.
Yeah,
You know,
awesome.
that's it.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, this is a time where we do spend some time also inviting community organizations to come on and talk about their activities. And I have one of my sore sister friends on the phone, Tiffany. How are you, Tiffany?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Oh, doing just fine. And we're talking about different health and health-related issues. And I understand that Romeo Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha and Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority in general has a big Alzheimer event coming up. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yes. Romeo Omega is joining with the Alzheimer's Association to do Alzheimer's Awareness Impact Day, which is going to be on Sunday, June 21st, which is actually the longest day of the year. It's the summer solstice, and it's the longest day. And we're doing a jump-a-thon, hoping that we get volunteers to jump from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., enjoy the festivities and food, cotton candy, and games, pretty much to just bring the community together to raise awareness for Alzheimer's and just talk about care and advocacy and diagnosis. And it's going to be at Langdon Park. And once again, that's on Sunday, June 21st from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
And why June 21st? Because that's Father's Day. So what's happening? Why did we choose that day?
Yes. Well, it just so happens that this year the summer solstice is on June 21st. And that's when the sun is up the longest day of the year. And it pretty much is, we're using that day to pretty much think about what an Alzheimer's patient feels like every single day. And what it feels like to experience pretty much losing the best piece of you, losing your mind. And ironically, it's ironic that it's on Father's Day because I'm actually personally invested in this because my father has Alzheimer's. And it's so different than what I would have ever imagined. And having that personal experience every single day, it just really brings me to really want to focus on making sure that anybody who I can assist in not having to experience that, I will.
Absolutely.
Well, Sora, Tiffany, thank you so much for sharing that information. Please make yourself available in the coming weeks so that we can invite people to join you. So how can someone participate in the Jump-a-thon?
Yes, if anyone wants to just even come to the event, or participate as a jumper or even become a sponsor. You don't have to be a company or any large organization to become a sponsor. You can email me directly at alzheimerimpactday@romeomega.org, and we can send you whatever information that you need to participate in any way that you desire for the event.
Okay, and spell that out for us, Alzheimer Impact Day at romeomega.org.
Sure. It's ALZHEIMERIMPACTDAY
Wonderful.
at Romeo Omega. That's RHOMUOMEGA.org. alzheimersresource.org.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tiffany. And we'll definitely have you
Thank you.
and
Thank you
tomorrow
so much for
on
having me.
in the coming weeks so that we can find out more about this. We've actually had a couple of folks on over I can't believe it's been a year that we've
Yes.
had the show to talk about the experience of
the
dealing
taking
with,
care
and
of
especially
parents.
from the caretaker standpoint of dealing with people managing Alzheimer's in their lives. So we know how important this is. And definitely thank you for sharing this program with us. We want to make sure we let folks know, and we'll add it to our bonus content as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Holly.
All right. Have a good
And
one.
Holly, I want to give a quick shout out to for the Power Networking Conference. I think we have a flyer. We've talked about the Power Networking Conference, and we will do much more in the coming couple of
Yes.
weeks to promote the conference. So everyone has it in their bonus content. But I want to defer. That's PowerNetworkingConference.com. Just Google it, look it up. It's going to be a wonderful, powerful explosion June 25th through the 27th. Many of us are going on the 24th for the bonus day. We look forward to seeing you there. And I want to pivot back, Pastor Payne. Is there any other detail for Saturday that we need to be aware of for the medical mission at home?
Yes, ma'am. Other than the fact that Providence will kick off a national rollout of future medical missions at home that are being sponsored by Ascension hospitals across the country. And this
Wonderful.
is an inaugural event. Normally, over the past 20 some odd years, they've had them in very rural areas in the South. But more importantly, someone has enough vision at Ascension to say, you know what, we need to do this on a national basis. And so that's what's exciting about it. But as you pointed out, we do need volunteers to date.
Absolutely.
We have almost 300 volunteers. And you just go to medicalmissionathome.org and you can volunteer. You do not have to have medical experience. You come, we will show you what needs to be done. We'll have T-shirts and all of those sorts of things available to you to help us do what we believe God would have us do.
And volunteers need to get there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Please go online to register.
Yes, ma'am.
Volunteers haven't registered, but they decide a friend wants to come.
Bring
Should
'em.
they come? Bring
Bring
them.
'em.
And then what about donations? And if people can't attend, but they want to help the cause or help the mission?
Okay, fine. We'll take donations, those that would like to provide them. We're not soliciting them. The event is free. We'll take the money and plow every penny of it back into the community. They can send that to the Lighthouse Baptist Church, 3109-A, Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue Southeast, Washington, D.C., 20032. There's no admin cost. There's no pay my gas. There's no pay for my jet like these other crooks are out here doing. But the point is, I want to be very clear about that. I'm not asking anyone for a dime. Every bit of this money is being placed and put up by Ascension Health as well as Providence Hospital. So I don't need a new Rolex. I don't have any Folex, and I don't have a Foch bag or Coach bag.
And Pastor, just for the rollout that's going to happen, Truth 360 is a friend and a home. Holly, if you don't mind, I'd like for us to just go right on ahead into our thoughts, and we can close the show with the song. But we appreciate you, Pastor Payne, for being on the show. We usually close the show with a comment about our thoughts, and so I'll go last. I'm going to defer to Holly to go first.
Well, thank God for health. I'll start with that. And, we really do have to take an opportunity to choose wisely and choose to support these activities, from the Alzheimer event on the 21st to the Medical Mission at Home event that's taking place at St. Elizabeth's on June 6th, and all the many things that happen, frankly, every week in this city. We really are blessed to have a community of folks who do a lot of good work to make sure that we have access to opportunity. And, I guess I'm struck by where I started, and that is, all of what we try to do here on Truth 360 is to help people understand and have an opportunity and have access to seek their best selves. It is something that I rise each morning in meditation to seek my best self. It is something that I try to spread to others, to seek being my best self at all times. Every day I fail. Every single day I fail.
too, young lady.
However, there are sparks of joy in the middle. And many times I am able to, and the fact that I can rise the next day with the same goal on my mind and same ambition and aspiration is what allows me to sleep peaceful during the night. And so I say to people, you know, when you look at your life and you seek success, know that it will be wrought with controversy. Know that it will be full of sacrifice. Know that it is hard work. But you do so because you seek to be your best self. And finding and discovering who you are as your best self is a journey that only you can take and only you should take. And you don't want to miss the ride. And so that's pretty much what I'm thinking about today as I think about what we've talked about and what we're doing. And I would also say that your journey, one of my foster kids used to sing this song in church. What God has for me is for me. And I would say to you, your journey is your journey. Don't let anyone dissuade you from it or your purpose, which is why it's important that you rise every day focused on it. There will be many who don't agree. Pastor Payne and I don't always agree. Jennifer and I don't always agree. But we rise every day in our purpose and on our mission. And so I would say that even if you've heard things that you don't agree with, even on this show, and even as we seek to try to empower you that have turned you off, don't let that stop you from being your best self, because your journey is for you, and the choices that you make are the ones that you are entitled to make. And one thing you will always hear from me is, I may not agree with your choices, but I 100% respect your decision to make them, so choose wisely.
Beautiful, Pastor Payne.
Thank you for the opportunity again to be here, Dr. Jones and Ms. Holliday. I appreciate it very much. Secondly, I have to do my shout out again. Let's start with my 7 children. Leslie, 39, Kimberly, 37, Rakita, 35, Nanyamka, 34, Ayin, 32, Baraka, 31, and Issa will be 23 on Saturday. Happy birthday, son. 10 grandchildren. Chasen is 19. Asia will be 18. She'll graduate next Saturday. Sydney is 16. Jayla she'll be 13 on June 21st, but she's 43. And then 43 in attitude. And then you have Malik, who's 13. And then we step off the porch a little bit. We have Kaylin, who's 5, Tylen, who's 4, and then I call them the Titans of Terror, my twins. They're 2 each. That's Maximus and Alexander. And then, of course, I have their mother or grandmother, 38 years, Mary Lou Payne from Little Washington. If you want a good wife, you dial 1-800-pecantree.com. You find your wife under the pecan tree. The Bible says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path.
Amen. Well, Holly, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I believe in telling the truth in love, and I think that it is by no mistake that when we've been championing the Power Networking Conference that I'm a huge fan of, and championing all of the business development, growth, chasing excellence, being outstanding, developing yourself to the full, at the cornerstone of that conference is health, wealth, and wellness. So it is no mistake that when we set out and charted this course through the Seed Faith-Based Initiative to create a venue to transform lives and to give people the opportunity to move their path forward to where they see a brighter destiny, and a destiny that is rooted in their faith, that we chose to start out by providing exceptional health. I'm a health champion and a health warrior, and have devoted much of my life to the same. And so with that, I am going to ask all of our listeners to continue to be the best you that you can be and celebrate and live life truthfully and in love. So next up on the Truth 360 show is the Renee Allen show that follows us.
Yes.
And
And
Holly,
next week we've been talking about mindset. So next week we're actually gonna have a mindset expert on the show
Oh, is that right?
to talk about how you've practically changed your mindset about things.
that's
so
right. And
be
so
real
in-
exciting.
In all the things that we're doing in literacy and financial literacy and wellness, I think mindset is awesome.
Yes.
An awesome direction. Pastor Payne,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you for hanging out with Holly and
Yes,
I.
we're
And
so
bringing
glad to
it.
have
Holly,
you.
welcome back. Thank you as always for great conversation. And to our listening audience, it wouldn't be a show if there were no you. So we thank you. We look forward to seeing you next week. And we're going to get out of here leaving you with Kevin LeBar's song, Your Destiny, so that we can all be thinking about our mind shift, change, and destiny.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody. We did-